Hey everyone, it's Sophie. Nat's just getting ready, so we're going to be starting the stream in a second. If you aren't familiar with liberal slop streams, the purpose of today is to take a look at liberal ideology, what liberals believe in, how they think the world works, mysterious and enigmatic as that is. Today, at the start of this liberal slop stream, Nat and I are going to be watching Kurzgesagt's video responding to people's criticisms of them for taking Bill Gates' money. Especially because we actually criticized them for taking Bill Gates' money, so it should be interesting to see what they have to say in their defense. I'm kind of guessing it will miss the point entirely. Please fill out your Kurzgesagt reply video bingo cards now. Will the magic carbon capture machines make an appearance? Put it in the center square. I think it's quite likely. Will they say, we take funding from lots of places? Who knows? We'll be starting properly in 2 to 5 minutes. See you all then. Nat,
Sophie,
what are we doing, Nat?
we're gonna roast Kurzgesagt to death.
Not to death.
Not to death.
That's not a legal threat. She was speaking figuratively.
Definitely.
Prince Infidel, thank you so much for subscribing. You've been subscribed for 25 months, 26 in a row somehow. No, I've got it the wrong way around. I was like, it's impressive to be subscribed for more months in a row than you've been in total. 25 months in a row, 26 total. 2 baker's dozens of months. Is that anything? I don't think that's anything.
Yes, it is.
It sure is something. It's a lot of support. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Everyone, please remember, if you're enjoying the stream, you can subscribe, cheer, or donate directly using Command Tip to support the stream. We're doing work right now, and it's quite nice when you get paid for doing work. Obviously, we do all this stuff for free and for the greater good of mankind, but also we got to eat. So please consider using Command Tip. And what are we up to today, Nat? Please don't say roast cuts because I do that again this time.
Some of you wonderful chatters may remember that we watched a couple of Kurzgesagt videos on climate change. The theme of the videos was it's okay, it's gonna be okay, we can do it.
Which is very good news for me because I am working on a video called The World Is Not Ending.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to hear that it's all going to be okay.
Right. So we saw, the theme of the video, and we're like, that would be nice if they were addressing the real actual ways that we can address climate change by ending capitalism.
Yes.
Which is just an engine of destruction. So we were very critical of those videos because they were very much basically repeating point for point Bill Gates's vision of green imperialism, capitalist greenwashing, basically, and their kind of final address to what we can do, ordinary people like us can do to address climate change, was simply vote with your money, vote with your wallet, and vote at the polls. And that was it. Hopeful. So we certainly did roast those videos and had a lot of fun doing so. And it seems that Kurzgesagt has...
It seems because I've been told that, but I'm trying to remember where I was told that, so I can actually track down the...
Imagine if it didn't exist.
I mean, it'd be pretty wild
that'd be really
if they actually hadn't... No, I mean, we have backup content.
That's true.
I can ultimately just be like, well, we're reading the New Statesman.
We'd be fine.
And these hogs would fucking love it.
Yeah. So, Kurzgesagt apparently did receive criticism, presumably from elsewhere, not just us, on the fact that they had, been sponsored by Bill Gates in creating these videos about climate change that really promoted his vision for addressing climate change, which is one that simply makes billionaires more money. That's his address to climate change.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking of watching that video and critiquing it.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of videos. Now that I have had a look, I'm also just going to tell my Patreon Discord that we're streaming now live. That's all I really need to say. I just need to say live and then the Twitch link. Yeah, I found a couple of things. So there's one on their channel called How to Make Money on YouTube with 20 Million Subscribers. So I think they might have made a video that can, in general, be clickable, rather than a video that's like addressing our critics.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that the one you've been told is?
I think
the
so.
one?
But now this is fun. Before we go and look at that, I've actually went on to kurzgesagt.org, kurzgesagt.org, and I have found this Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
They have a page for the Bill and Melinda Gates
Well,
Foundation?
it's their portfolio, so I assume this is
they
an explainer.
created videos for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
I assume that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave them money to make it a little explainer of what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation does.
Right.
So let's first actually, and this should be good fun. This should be fucking great.
No.
I don't know that I'm prepared with enough info to directly...
It's only 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to see kind of how toe-sucking it is, really. The donation bar is over a banner that says Vienna, Austria, 1846. Shall we begin? Okay.
Purchase power. How data saves mothers' lives. In the middle of the 19th century, something strange was going on in the world's largest maternity hospital in Vienna. In the first wing, in which medical students were taught, every 10th mother died of childbed fever. Back then, this infection was the most common cause.
Okay, so we're leading into the history of Ignaz Semmelweis, I guess. The doctor who said, please,
Wash your hands.
please, when you're going from the morgue to the maternity ward,
Please
wash your hands. And people were like, okay, pretty much uncritically. There were
they were like,
no. There were
haha, you loser.
no. There were a couple. There are three kind of.
They were like, check out this clown telling
There-
us to wash our hands.
Hey, leave clowns alone. Secondly, there were two pretty opposing reactions between Ignaz Semmelweis and the guy who, I've forgotten his name right now, but the guy who proposed molecule theory. Or originally it was animalcules, because he was saying there are little tiny animals. Cule means small.
Yeah.
Right? And then people
Am I mixing up
when
stories?
well, yeah, kind of. Like when he proposed that, people were kind of like, "Oh, sure, there's tiny little animals in the air.
Yeah.
Sure."
I just remember hearing about the doctors getting really offended when they were told to wash their hands. And
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I've got it wrong about
And
Ignaz
they were
Semmelweis.
like, how dare you tell me I'm killing my patients?
And the third
when I'm
one,
washing my hands?
which I just think is quite fun, is that people were using carbolic acid as a disinfectant. That's fun. It's really fun that they were using carbolic acid to disinfect things.
Nice.
And there was a nurse, well, there were many nurses, who would be touching all this fucking acid, so their hands would get really rough and blistered and shit, right? And a doctor invented latex gloves for his girlfriend, a nurse, because he wanted her hands to be soft and dainty. I just think that's lovely. Okay. Let's go back to Vienna, Austria, 1847, I think.
Cause of deaths for mothers. But in the second wing, in which midwives were taught, only 1 in 25 mothers died of the disease. How could this be? The young Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis had a suspicion. The two wings must be doing something fundamentally different. He noticed that in the first wing, the medical students took turns helping to give birth and attending autopsies of women who had died of childbed fever. Students and doctors worked in daytime clothes instead of clean lab.
Okay, that's downright actually pretty, like, wild and darkly funny. Like, it wasn't just that they were going to the morgue in general.
Yeah.
They would go and autopsy a woman who had just died of a disease that pregnant mothers giving birth are vulnerable to. And then they would go that's fucked up. That's fucking wild. That's too much. I hadn't learned that bit before.
Coats and went straight from autopsy to delivery without washing their hands.
I guess what I'm saying is, Kurzgesagt, great channel. Check it out. Subscribe.
I just want to
The
contrast
midwives
this standard of hygiene in hospital with there's like Roma and Jewish groups in Europe would like have very rigorous like washing practices, and Roma would have you'd wash tops and bottoms separately always, like just to not mix like, you know, unnecessary spread of.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah.
I get that.
There's people who have shit figured out just because they need to, because that's their
This
life.
is this.
And then
Hang
there's
on.
people who
This is like
This is such a derail.
Nat has a particular
This is a
bugbear.
derail
One side of her
derail.
family is Jewish, one side of her family is Roma, and it's like because people are always saying that travelers are like dirty and whatever. You're
Yeah.
like they literally you will go to a traveler site and you will see people like cleaning their wheelie bins.
Yeah.
Because they like are that.
Yeah, I mean,
culturally
sometimes
invested in
people
cleaning.
don't have access to
Sure.
the facilities that they need and
Yeah.
whatever. But I'm just there's no excuse for this shit anyway.
Okay, let's go back to the.
Did only one thing: deliver babies. It was years before the role of bacteria in diseases was known. But Semmelweis had just discovered that childbed fever
Well,
was
not gross
contagious.
stuff, like-
Sorry, you have to say it again.
I'm just like, just don't put gross stuff near not gross stuff. Like people have
Yeah, I
strong
think
instincts about
if
this
we had
kind of stuff. Really,
if we had Google Trends for like the whole history of human knowledge and life,
yeah,
you could track "don't shit where you eat"
Yes.
as like a
Yes.
saying. How long have we been saying that? And then Ignaz had the brilliant idea to not autopsy a woman who just died of something that pregnant mothers are vulnerable to,
yeah.
and then deliver a baby.
And
I will say I really like that he's got various things on his table here. He's got his notepad. He's got a picture of a dead baby. He's got a picture of an alive baby. He's got a little pacifier. He's got his bong. It's all going great, you know. He's just like me for
Everything he
real.
needs.
He's an ADHD queen.
doctors themselves were transmitting the disease. He also found out that the cause of the disease could be destroyed through chemicals and encouraged the use of disinfection. The result, the number of deaths in the medical students' wing dropped by 2/3. Over 20 years went by before hygiene and antisepsis became routine practice. But it was discoveries like this that tipped the scales for maternal mortality, gathering data and making observations often long before the bigger picture of the problem was known. Things have improved since. Thanks to Finland's extensive population statistics, we know that in the 1800s,
Okay, so I don't know that this is going to be talk about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation at all. I think they just made this for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation about hygiene, I guess. So I feel like we can still watch it to the end, just in case it ends out like, and that's how good Bill Gates is for the world. Which I think, by the way, is kind of implicitly what's being said. But still, anyway. Tiny Wooden Tree, thank you so much for £61 and 33 pence donation. I prefer round numbers. Thanks for the entertainment. Thank you for getting us up to £400. That's very nice of you. Okay, let's carry on.
1 in 100 births led to the death of the mother. At an average of 5 children per woman, that was a lot. Today, fewer than 1 in 30,000 births end with the death of the mother in Finland. That is the lowest maternal mortality worldwide. But this progress does not happen automatically. There are still countries where per birth 1 in 200 women dies. The difference is that we know now that improvement is possible and how to make it happen, by using data to identify solutions that would be overlooked otherwise.
Socialism? Because, I'm not going to say Finland's a socialist country, but if it has the lowest child mortality, they do have some wacky little...
There's
Well,
places
socialist
there's
policies,
places where
but-
you can really clearly say the problem here is capitalism, and there's places where you can say as a trend these countries have more social welfare programs and like do more socialist-y stuff.
And therefore fewer infants die, and
Right.
it's a pretty straight line, like...
Yeah. Mothy Bugs, thank you for £4.42, which immediately ruined Tiny Wooden Tree's big round number, and saying, take my money. Bump Vecino, thank you for £4.20. Have a very Martian Monday. Are there Mondays on Mars? There aren't Mondays. We abolished them.
Ethiopia's health worker program, for example, decreased child mortality, but still too many mothers died in birth. However, the data they collected showed a connection between maternal deaths and giving birth at home. Ethiopia now focuses on getting more women to health facilities for delivery, and because of that, the maternal mortality rate has declined to less than 1/3 within just 1 generation. Gathering data means we can learn what works, whether in Austria more than a century ago or in Ethiopia today. our records tell us about the progress, and without them, progress could not have been made. Now it's on us to make the most of this knowledge by funding health, doing research, and keeping progress going.
Shot called. Shot called.
Yeah.
Shot fucking called.
Yeah.
Ignaz Semmelweis, Bill Gates, same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy. Have you ever seen them in the same room? No. That's because Ignaz Semmelweis has been dead for 150 years.
The thing is,
Yes.
money is instruction tokens.
Yes.
And so if Bill Gates puts loads of money and investment into healthcare infrastructure,
Yeah.
he's not making that healthcare infrastructure happen. It's just that those people who he sucked all the money out of the planet in the first place by making people work for him, and then he's just telling people to do things that they could have done anyway.
I adore
If he
you.
hadn't, if capitalism wasn't capitalism.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm very gay. I was just watching my wife. Okay. So they have produced an animation that we could call Bill and Melinda
It's an
Gates
advert for the Bill and
propaganda.
Melinda Gates
Yeah, well, an
animation.
ad, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That is literally what it is.
As far as things go, it's not
So there are the videos that we saw before that
immediately noxious.
we know are funded by the Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
And they've been broadly criticized, read for filth all over YouTube, for saying, "Don't worry, capitalism will solve the problem capitalism created." It's really good at doing that. It's definitely capable of doing that. Just look at the Nazis. Remember how capitalism solved that problem? So, how to make money on YouTube with 20 million subs. You ready for how to make money on YouTube with 20 million subs?
I'm just like, if you've got 20 million subs, you need instruction.
That's a bit of they're being a bit cheeky, I think.
Yeah.
How we make money on YouTube with 20 million
Right.
subs, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Take sponsorship.
Take money from
Gates,
Bill and
yes.
Melinda Gates. Aren't Bill and Melinda Gates separated now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
He is friends with Epstein.
Yes, and she was like, hey,
Was
stop
certainly
being
a part
friends
of it.
with Epstein.
Yeah, even after
And
he
stop
was arrested on
sending creepy emails to your
sex
female
trafficking
employees.
charges. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Straight people.
Yeah.
Um,
Billionaires.
I'm gonna leave Melinda Gates mostly out. I'm gonna stick to saying the Gates Foundation and talking about Bill Gates, because she's taken her off ramp. You ready for how to make money on YouTube with 20 million subs?
I sure am.
Okay.
What if we find out it's nothing to do with it?
Oh fuck! It's loud as hell. If it's got nothing to do with it, then we'll go read the New Statesman.
Okay.
If it does respond to the criticism, we'll go read the New Statesman. It's gonna shake out the exact
Alright.
same way. Chat.
Fingers crossed.
If it turns out this video does not respond to people criticizing them for taking the Gates Foundation money, soz, LOL, RIP, LMAO.
2023, Kurzgesagt has existed for 10 years. Insanely long in internet years. We're among the largest sciencey channels on YouTube and still a bit of a black box to people. So let's talk about ourselves a bit in 3 parts. Our backstory, how we finance our work, and the values of Kurzgesagt. Let's jump back to a more innocent time. From humble beginnings to today. Kurzgesagt's foundation was laid when Philip, our founder, dropped out of high school as a teenager. Learning seemed daft and useless, and he wasn't interested in anything. Until a very special teacher at a school for dropouts grabbed him by the neck. The way she taught was different. She talked about connections and the big picture. She told a story. For the first time ever, Philip wanted to learn more without being forced. It was a key life experience. Kurzgesagt.
Chat's pointing out something that I thought was also very funny. They call themselves one of the biggest sciencey channels on YouTube. Just sciencey.
Yeah. Well, that's an accurate description.
Yeah, they're sciencey.
Tries to recreate this experience for you. Nothing is boring if you tell a good story, and we try to tell these stories to spark excitement and make you want to go on and learn more. Because of the one teacher that could do this, Philip got a high school degree, studied history and design, and eventually started Kurzgesagt as a passion project inspired by Crash Course World History. In 2012, YouTube was less commercial and more idealistic. You couldn't make a living with videos as involved as ours, and that was fine. The goal was creative freedom, and so for the first few years, it actually cost money to make Kurzgesagt. We had no outside funding, just intrinsic motivation and a few friends from university. We worked for clients during the day and on Kurzgesagt at night, 80 to 100 hours a week. It was a real struggle, but also very rewarding. But then Patreon launched, sponsorship started, our views increased, YouTube changed. In 2015, the channel began to break even and then to earn a profit. But we were pretty burned out at this point, so we decided to bring in more friends and hire the first team members full-time, creating a legal entity. More people meant that we could stop overworking, do more, and improve. But we also needed to earn more. The livelihood of real humans depended upon it. None of us...
Okay, we needed to earn more. The livelihood of real humans or birds depended on it.
Yeah, all birds.
Yeah. Remember, any decision they made from here, it's because they had real people depending on it. Very important.
...had any experience in running a company. We didn't plan to become big or to grow, it sort of just happened. A decade later, Kurzgesagt is not a small project anymore. We are an animation studio with offices in Munich and Berlin. We need computers, monitors, tablets, desks, coffee, contracts, pay licenses, taxes, rent, and insurance. In 2023, our team consists of over 60 employees and a lot of freelancers around the world. Salaries alone cost millions of dollars a year just to stay around. This creates an interesting problem. With such high production costs, how can we publish our work for free? How we finance Kurzgesagt. We've added up our earnings from 2015 through 2022. Our sources of funding change depending on opportunities and the state of the world. Early on, agency work was our main source of income. Ad revenue varies. In some years, we got more sponsorships than in others. The shop didn't exist for a long time, then it became pretty big after we launched our calendar. 62% of our revenue comes indirectly or directly from you. You watch our videos with ads, support us on Patreon, or buy from our shop. The single biggest source of income by far is our shop, that alone accounted for 40% over the last 8 years.
Damn, that's crazy. I gotta start making merch.
The shop started small, but once we published our calendar for the first time in 2016, we realized it could really help us do more things, and we started producing more and more science products, from our posters to our gratitude journal or universe-scented candles. YouTube ads accounted for 13% and Patreon 9%. So without your support, we would cease to exist. Our shop and Patreon are our most important sources of revenue, and because we see ourselves as...
It's kind of interesting that they call ad revenue, they put it in the use. This isn't a deep criticism.
Like
I'm just pondering something, right? It's like ad revenue. Advertisers pay YouTube to get ads seen. When the ads get seen on any given video, YouTube pays a little bit of what they've been paid to YouTubers, right? So like, yes, it is you watching the video that like causally results in them, but the funding comes from the advertisers.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that when we talk about funding sources and when we talk about like who is behind someone's enterprise, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying that the money literally comes from whoever is advertising on YouTube, which glass houses. I am on YouTube, so you know whoever is advertising on YouTube also pays me a bit of money. My thing would probably be more like 60%. It's just Patreon, you know, 40% is Twitch and AdSense, unless AdSense just isn't there that month, which is frequently. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I just found that interesting. I really not a deep critique or whatever. I'm just kind of curious about that.
Science communicators, We don't just do merch, but sciencey products that we spend hundreds of hours researching, discussing with experts, polishing up and working on directly with the manufacturers. They are part of the science story we try to tell. It also just feels good to get directly funded by you guys and give you something back for it on top of our videos. YouTube ads are a crucial part of our funding as well, but they are not within our control. Then there's paid agency work, which we stopped doing in 2022. It accounted for 9% of our revenue over the last 8 years. A lot in the beginning, not much by the end. Then there are commercial sponsors advertising products. They accounted for 12% of our revenue. We also got about 7% from German public broadcasting for the German channel, but ended this partnership in 2022. Finally, there are institutional sponsors representing about 10%. Some people take issue with this, especially Bill Gates has come under public scrutiny, and we've been criticized for even working with organizations funded by him.
That's so...
Okay, interesting.
That is very interesting because, like, okay, how much of the video is there left? Like, clearly,
About
like,
half.
that's so much setup.
This was halfway to get
yeah, that's so much setup to be
point.
like, hey, we're just little guys. We started out on a shoestring.
Yeah.
Just, you
Like
know,
I said,
because
remember, everything we say after this
is what we care
decisions we
about.
made to pay real humans
Yeah.
who need the money. And it's like, yeah, we're all real humans. Like, we're all real humans.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, I'll take that as a serious thing for a second and say, yeah, capitalism is a system of incentives. And the harm that is done by it is frequently, you know, because people were incentivized to do that harm.
Yeah.
Not because they are bad people, you know?
Right, and also, you know, people get money from all kinds of, especially people doing work like this or like academic, like research, like they find the funding where they find it, often from, you know, various institutions or private businesses, and they, you know, have to make sometimes like compromises on their sort of creative freedom. But it's not just about the idea that, oh, someone's paid you and therefore you've sold your soul and that's why you're no longer respectable. It's not like, oh, Bill Gates is an evil guy and therefore you being paid by Bill Gates makes you evil.
Yeah. Even
if, you know, they're trying to be like, oh, it's only 10% or whatever.
Yeah. I just had a question in chat that I just want to quickly deal with, which was Judas22x said, would subbing to Patreon be better support than Twitch? Asking because should Twitch creators be pushing Patreon instead of Twitch subs? Right. Kinda. Like, my Patreon funds everything I do, and so it kind of includes my Twitch anyway. But like, it's the Twitch subs most directly fund me doing Twitch, you know, because it's the money that comes through Twitch. But like, if you're willing to make the extra click, then yeah, go to my Patreon. I do get a much bigger cut from Patreon than I do through Twitch. Twitch takes quite a lot of your money when you sub to me. So if you want to give me money long term, definitely Patreon is better. But if you wanted to give me money right now, I'd get no cut taken out of it if you just use command tip and tip to my PayPal. So sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, just that people frequently, when they respond to criticisms about their funding sources, get it all twisted, and they're kind of like, you know, I'm not saying anything different just because I'm being sponsored by this person. I'm not lying. I'm not, you know, but it's like, that's also part of the problem. Like, you're sponsored by Bill Gates, and so, you know, you've been chosen because you're a person who, like, is aligned with those, you know, not in a ruling, you're not a member of the ruling class, but you share those beliefs about how the world works that fundamentally prop up capitalism and prop up the very thing that you're making a video about how to prevent, which is climate change. And so people are right to be extremely mad about that, because you're fundamentally, like, if people... You're fundamentally, like, putting people back to sleep and making the problem worse.
Yes, so. I think I think there's a bit of a thing to untangle here about funding, which is that they're in a weird double bind, right? So they said just now that institutional funders make up about 10% of their funding. Now, the thing is, that makes it kind of worse.
Yeah, because they're
if
probably very excited and flattered to be
if
funded by him.
If you're not...
It makes their brand more legitimate.
If you're not actually dependent, like, you know, massively, crucially, solely, vitally dependent on the funding from the Gates Foundation, then the fact that you're making this, it's like, okay, well then, you know, you just did it. You know, you just put this out. Like, it's not, they didn't even give you a big check. On the other hand, you know, if they get into the funding just now and they say that, this is why I say it's a double blind, because if they get into the funding just now and they say, actually, the funding for those videos specifically, like, we wouldn't have made them and then they paid us to make them, you know, that would go the other way. But I think that they're responding along the former lines by saying in the first place it's only 10% of the funding. They're saying it's only a small amount, but actually, like, it only being a small amount, it doesn't matter. It's kind of a weird sleight of hand. Like, it's only a small amount that we're paid. We don't actually need that money. That's we could do just as well without it.
Which really just demonstrates that they are personally, like, more, like, so invested in Bill Gates as a figure, his brand, his sicko imperialist capitalist industry, and they want to be in on it. They're like, yeah, he's the good billionaire. He's the good one. Listen to him. He'll save the world.
I just think that it's like, I don't know, like, it is, as we said in the last stream, everything they put in those videos is so perfectly aligned with his green imperialist manifesto.
Yeah, precisely.
And so them saying we're only given 10% of our funding from institutional sponsors, it just like, they're responding like people are saying you're paid off to think that, but what people are saying isn't you're paid off to think that. They're saying you are saying a wrong thing that isn't true, no matter how much you are funded to say it. And this is why, like, I've seen some people who are and I feel like we did a fairly good job of this in our criticism, like, who are saying people are saying they're funded by Bill Gates. That's not actually the point. The point is what they're saying is scientifically wrong. They have a little animation of a magic doodad that can suck carbon out of the air, and it doesn't exist. It's a lie. Like, that's the problem.
It's science fiction. It's a capitalist science fiction. That's what they're trying to like promote to people. And
would it be worse if they'd been paid, you know, like I said, different alternatives, right? Would it be worse if their channel were entirely paid by the Gates Foundation? Would it be worse if they wouldn't have made those videos if not for the Gates Foundation? Would it be worse if they are barely paid by the Gates Foundation? Would it be worse if they're not paid at all by the Gates Foundation? And the answer is in asking this question: which of those would be worse if you couldn't possibly know which one it was? Like, if they never disclosed their funding in any way and you never knew that they had money from the Gates Foundation, which of those would be worse? And the answer is, you can't tell. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The harm is in the thing they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we carry on? They're going to get into it in more detail.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's look at this 10% in more detail. About 3% of our revenue over the last 8 years came from the Gates organizations for a wide variety of topics, often suggested by us.
Population of Africa. That might be another one that we need to watch sometime.
Yeah, okay. It actually seems like
organizations for a wide variety of topics.
It actually seems like we might need to go watch a bunch more Kurzgesagt. I was really planning to read the New Statesman today. Thank you, Beanie, for the £12.07 tip.
This one?
So
what the fuck
you're pointing
is that?
at Who's to Blame. If you use the mouse, by the way, they can see that that's the one you're pointing at.
Christ, what has he got these guys doing?
Who's to blame in a war between America, the EU, and China? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Do I want to hear about that from Kurzgesagt, sponsored by Bill Gates?
Egoistic altruism. Interesting.
That's gonna be some fucking... Of course Bill Gates is into that shit.
I think it's also really noteworthy that they're saying the topics were suggested by us, or often suggested by us. However, right, you can see that horror parasites, that was probably suggested by them. Microbiome, quite likely was suggested by them. I'd put it at a like 70-30, right? That they probably suggested an egoistic altruism thing and got funding for it. Same for bacteriophage, probably them. But then we've got vaccines, which we know the Gates Foundation fairly and rightly, please get vaccinated, is invested in the development of vaccination, right?
However,
did they
also
suggest
always
overpopulation in Africa? We return to the previous conversation, right? Is it worse if they were told to make a video about overpopulation in Africa and given the money and they made it? Or is it worse if they were like, hey, Bill, we've got a great idea for a video about overpopulation and Africa.
They may be, and I hope this, I desperately hope this is the case, they may be directly contradicting, eugenicist notions of overpopulation in Africa in that video. I would hope so.
Maybe so. But what Bill Gates himself has said about Africa.
Bill Gates is has specifically had an extremely eugenicist approach to health in Africa.
I want to tell some people in chat about this because I think some people might be into this. If you don't know about Red Planet, it's a weekly Call Me Roundtable I do every Sunday. I mean, when I'm there. I wasn't there last week. Every Sunday with Tim, Kira, and Mule. Basically, we have people on, we talk about based stuff, and we interview activists and organizers. For example, we had the people from Just Stop Oil. That was really fucking cool. Really good to get bona fide climate activists on the show. We're going to start producing some Patreon-only content that will be released publicly if we have a gap in releases that we need to fill in. A little side series called Limited Hangouts, where we talk about conspiracy theories. The first episode is going to be about Bill Gates. So the format is here's what Bill Gates is what's actually wrong with Bill Gates, and then just to remind you how conspiracy theories work in the middle quickly, and then here are the conspiracy theories about Bill Gates, right? And I'm just I'm fucking buzzing for that because
I think that'll be really
he is a eugenicist. I'm so excited to talk about he's awful. He's actually awful in a bunch of ways that conspiracy theorists don't
Yeah, and you sort of mildly credited him or them for making the vaccines video, but always worth saying.
No, I'm just saying.
Context
I'm just
Bill
saying
Gates,
people should get vaccinated. That's
Yes,
the only thing I said.
yeah.
I just said please get vaccinated.
in this context, is worth saying that Bill Gates is responsible for maintaining the patents on vaccinations on COVID vaccines, so that other countries couldn't produce them.
That's a section I'm planning for the episode. Is Bill Gates is actually quite responsible for lots of people not getting vaccinated. And why is that? Is it because there's anti-vaxxers make a scary boogeyman out of him? No. It's because
he made it so that the patent couldn't be broken or shared.
He insisted on them having a private patent so that they couldn't, so that countries couldn't just
same approach
publicly
he takes
produce
to
their
climate change. His whole approach is we need technology, we need green technologies to save us, not just changing the mode of production that we use. We need green technologies to save us, and maintaining those patents is very important, and rich countries need to create the green technologies, maintain the patents, be the leaders in response to climate change, and then just have poorer countries be buying their technologies from them for addressing climate change, which is just maintaining the trade deficit,
What is fascinating to me
not allowing
about
people to create their own solutions.
What is fascinating to me about him saying we have to make sure the global north are the ones leading capitalist climate change fight back, right? Or him saying that, or him insisting on them privating the patents so that the imperial periphery, the global south, couldn't make their own vaccines. He never explains why. He never ever explains why, and it's because the reasons are profit and racism.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to say that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to have to justify that he's well, we can make dumb money, and we're white.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
His justification would be it takes money to make these things and no one will invest in creating these things if they can't see profit at the end of it. The people with all the money are in the imperial core. Surprise, surprise. Wonder why that is. So we should just maintain that situation.
Pretty much. Someone in the chat was just saying that the Who's to Blame video, and now I'm pointing at the screen, you got me doing it. This one, apparently they conclude that the US and EU are the ones to blame for tensions.
Nice.
So there's that.
Nice one.
But again, I just think that, like, you know, like, okay, fine. I've made my points now already, and we should just carry on watching.
We're gonna have to go investigate.
We're gonna have to watch a couple of the. I think we're gonna have to watch Overpopulation in
Yeah,
Africa.
I can't let that go.
And I'm probably gonna want to see this egoistic altruism one too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Often suggest.
Apropos of nothing, you're looking great these days, and I'm wondering if you've lost weight. I have lost quite a bit of weight. I also had surgery on my face. Before we carry on, let me just say, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command TIP. If you have a Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch account, and then you can subscribe without paying any more money, but we get real money, which is kind of cool. Pay for us to get a pizza. Okay.
By us. 5% comes from open philanthropy and is only used for specific projects. With these funds, we've started Arabic, Hindi, Korean, Japanese, Portuguese, and French channels, bringing more free science content to more people. Then there's a 2-year funding for original TikTok content, which gives us freedom to explore and learn how to do short-form science communication. The final 2% came from other organizations like the Red Cross or the UN, for example. We choose institutional sponsors carefully, but if organizations want to fund videos that help us spread quality information about relevant topics, this is an easy yes for us, if we have the capacity for it. On top of that, the institutional sponsors we're working with align with our values. We have contracts with every grant giver or sponsor that bars them from editorial influence other than suggesting topic areas like global health or climate change.
Okay, so exactly
That's what I would expect.
Exactly what we said, right?
Yeah.
It's like their kind of defense of this is like, well, we make sure that people who sponsor us
We only make what
agree
we
with
would
us.
already want to make.
Yeah.
We choose sponsors that align with our values. And yes, that's the problem. You shouldn't have values aligned with Bill Gates because he's a billionaire.
Okay, this is the liberal slop stream, right? This is all about picking through the why liberals think what they think and what do they think, right? It's always easier for people to see this with like the far right. People are like the machinations of fascist ideology. People are quite familiar with these links together now, right? But this is like if a TERF was responding to like taking money from anti-abortion evangelicals, right? And they were like, well, we only took a little bit of money, and we make sure that any sponsor we take money from agrees with our values. So when we saw a check coming in from someone who hates women, we were like, well, we TERFs hate women, so great.
You know, it's like there just aren't any solid feminist organizations writing massive checks to attack trans people.
So strange.
So
weird.
You know,
So
for some
strange that.
reason they just gotta go get their evangelical money.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
What are they supposed
it's
to do?
harder to look at this with liberal stuff because people think of it as very naturalized. It's invisible to people, right? But it's like in the same way we're always pointing out TERFs and anti-abortion freaks. They don't need a different word. Anti-abortion freaks. As H-Bomb would say, less shaking hands and more the same hands.
Yeah.
Two hands of the same person. Like this is just like that with Kurzgesagt here, just being like, we don't take that much money from them, and we make sure they align with our values. It's like, yeah. You're libs. Yeah. That's what everyone was saying. Everyone was saying, you're a bunch of libs. And you've responded, hey, we're a bunch of libs.
Yeah, but it's also worse than that.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have made a video exactly like that. They would have said a bunch of lib shit.
Yeah.
and they would have said much of the same stuff, but they wouldn't have made a video exactly like those climate doomerism videos before Bill Gates' book.
Yeah.
So it's not even like they've been influenced by the money to think those things, but they have been directly influenced by Bill Gates' spiel about how to save the world, like his own plan to save the world by being the richest guy ever. You know, like that's.
Yeah. I am really curious what the egoistic altruism, or I wonder if they'd made it a year later, if they would have called it effective altruism.
I was wondering that too,
That's what I'm quite curious about.
Yeah.
Okay, let's watch this.
We agree on video topics together, but sponsors can neither influence details nor our conclusions. The final decision always remains with us. And usually we develop the topics of the videos autonomously and tell the sponsor what we're doing afterwards. If you're interested in how we research our videos in detail, our head of research wrote an article about it.
Sorry that there's a gap as well between watching the video and the thing. It's because when playing it out loud, like I gotta mute our mic and then go on. Anyway, the word usually and the word often are a dynamic duo doing a lot of work.
That flew right past me, and I didn't even.
Right.
You know, it's like,
right.
yeah, okay, they usually never have to critique it or change anything. Okay.
Well,
Okay,
here's
so-
a fun little exercise, right? They said we usually pick the topic for the video autonomously,
Right.
and then tell the sponsor what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So in what cases do they not? Well, they also said when they had all the thumbnails up, that got funding from the Gates Foundation. Often the topics are chosen by us. So we know for sure that some of the cases in which...
Yeah, probably
right?
specifically the vaccines one.
Probably. Because we know that they did put a bunch of money around YouTube to promote people taking vaccines, which, again... Okay.
And then they whacked Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
And that part is not okay. Okay, let's do it.
Running an educational YouTube channel is a balancing act that we take very seriously. We're doing our best to maintain this balance, adjusting whenever necessary. As a team and a company, we want to grow to give more people access to a science-based outlook on the world. This brings us to our final topic. Why are we doing Kurzgesagt? Our values and our vision.
Well, this is another thing as well, because actually, like, a science-based... Well, while it was still muted, you laughed at them saying science-based, because it's a bit like them saying sciencey earlier, right?
Yeah.
But
It was
actually...
also based, like, how political a lot of what they're talking about is.
Yes.
Without very much... you know, there's the kind of, like, liberal understanding of politics, which can take you so far within the kind of realms of what you're talking about, but you know, no further. And so they do not have a rigorous evidence-based understanding of politics when they're talking about necessarily political solutions to necessarily political problems. So it's quite funny for me to for them to be like science-based.
What it made me think of it is the Greater London Authority rejecting any kind of qualitative research at all.
Yeah.
Right? We've heard this recently, that like it has to be measured in numbers. Only things that are measured in numbers, but it's like you're viewing a population as a population when you're doing that, which is inherently fucking eugenicist. Like, a science-based approach to people and politics means you're gonna wind up at eugenics. Just the same way that if you think, Tim, he's wacky. I'll use a different name. That's not the name of my co-host. Brian, he's wacky. You know, he believes in the lizard people, but he's an okay guy. And then, like, 6 months down the line, Brian's like, I know who's really behind this and shit like that. And you're like, oh, what happened to Brian? And it's like, no, it was you were on that trajectory the whole time.
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah.
What a science-based approach to political questions usually comes out as when liberals to conservatives are kind of using this kind of language, using this kind of framework for approaching things, is a very neoliberal technocrat kind of managerial
our donation
approach.
bar. It's a 42069. Okay. Go on.
is specifically a very neoliberal managerial approach to problems where you see the solutions necessarily as coming from very smart people making the decisions, managing things, and everyone else just benefits from the outcome, versus people actually having agency over the decisions that affect them, which is a more democratic approach. And often people who, you know, often this kind of like science guy approach, which is not very scientific at all, is completely contradictory.
Well, I have
aim and outcome to like actual democratic.
I have a Graeber bit, so everybody drink, and then I have a corollary, which is my mom. Graeber saying that Stalinism didn't go away. In effect, it just became the normal mode of politics. But for neoliberals, the immortal revolutionary economic science is Friedmanist free market economics instead of Marxism-Leninism, right? And then the corollary is my mum saying that Keir Starmer has secret polling data that we don't have access to.
Secret science that we're not smart enough to know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well...
That's exactly what neoliberal
the ruling
technocrats
class
want
has a
us
secret
to
science
believe.
they can do.
Yeah.
And we plebs, we can't do it. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
And Bill Gates and his sycophants both believe that, whether, you know, he is the ruling class doing the secret science and they aren't, and they're still like, I'm sure he's doing the secret science really good.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, a science-based outlook on the world is one of these terms that's just like, it's like freedom, right? Like everyone loves freedom, right? Like no one's going to have a problem with freedom. But if...
Great comment.
Good comment? Claiming your ideology is scientific is the core of authoritarianism. There you go. It's claiming that your belief system, in contrast to other belief systems, is the natural state of the world. This is exactly what I'm trying to get at now, right? Everyone loves freedom, right? We all love freedom here. Freedom is the best. It's great when you have freedom. We want as many people as possible to have freedom. But, like, if freedom, a good thing, is, like, co-opted by the hegemonic political ideology, by an imperialist project, by American imperialism, and then this is why fucking American politicians and media ghouls say freedom so much, is because, like, they are using freedom to mean for the benefit of America, right? And, like, so no one is going to attack directly the concept of freedom, and in the same way, I'm spending a lot of words here to not directly attack the concept of science. I think science is great. Science has taught me a lot. Science has taught me that, for example, you can change sex. Get wrecked, transphobes. But, like, I love science, right? I was a big fucking STEM lord in high school and university. Love science to bits. I'm a big space enthusiast, if you didn't guess, from all my branding. I love science. But if science, a pretty good thing, is then co-opted by some kind of political, project and used as its, exactly like Comet just said, it naturalizes everything they're doing. Well, we're doing it because it's scientific. Yeah. We have a scientific method at play here. That's why we do everything.
We have a scientific explanation for why women and people of color are inferior.
Right. I remember scientists trying to put together like an explanation to do with melanin and vitamin D. It was trying to explain why black people were catching COVID more. And I'm like, I remember that early on in the pandemic. And like, no, like they're being forced to go out when other people can afford to isolate.
And you see as well just how the sort of lack of basic understanding of the political realm causes people to make the most batshit assumptions in their scientific questioning, like, but also racist assumptions, like.
This all interfaces quite well with us, reading the New Statesman today. I mean, if we were reading The Economist, it would be even better, because The Economist, right? The literal name of The Economist is just The Economist. We're doing economic science. You can't question anything we're doing because it's economics. It's science. And it's like, no, everything you're doing implicitly defends capitalism. It implicitly defends billionaires. It implicitly defends reactionaries and the state, right? None of these things are neutral.
I just because we brought it up, and I assume everyone knows like understands this already, but I just need to say it and not left it unsaid that that people of color were getting COVID more obviously
because they were going out, they couldn't afford to
because they
isolate.
had to fucking work. And
I literally said that.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
See, I don't hear when you're speaking because I love women and I'm just watching
Me
how
too.
beautiful you are.
Yeah.
I know that's not you look at you were looking at the chat when I was. I know that's not what's going on. Okay, let's carry on and learn about their values. Okay, great.
Our core mission is to spark curiosity. We want to make science and humanism accessible for as many people as possible. The effort we put into creating our videos is a way of achieving that. Our videos are beautiful because that helps to spark curiosity, to understand complex topics, and because it just feels good to create and watch. Our research is...
That's me. I'm the bird holding the science orb, filling my eyes with glee because I love science so much.
Topics, and because it just feels good to create and watch. Our research is as intensive as it is, so our videos are a good simplification of very complicated topics. We want to make people excited about science so they rediscover subjects they hated in school and see how amazing they are. On top of curiosity, we want to inspire long-term thinking and a positive, constructive outlook. Being optimistic about the future of humanity is not mainstream, and we think this is horrible. Pessimism often sounds smart and gets more views, while optimism can sound naive. But this is a bias that's not helpful for us as a species.
Things that they were optimistic about.
Babe, the mic is muted.
I said true, but I'm not optimistic about the things they were optimistic about in that video.
Exactly. Again, to return to I'm writing this thing, the world's not ending right now. I also think optimism is not in the mainstream, and that's regrettable. And that it's much easier to get views and clicks with negativity, right? To say the world is ending. It's even often easier to mobilize people to take action, like political action, that you could use that energy to make the world a better place, right? By saying the world is ending. Perfect example would be fucking Alex Jones, right? He's constantly saying that we're right on the brink of new world order, one global world government tyranny, and only people donating to his show, joining a militia, going and living on a compound, getting ready to overthrow the government can possibly help. It's all negativity, right? I mean, it's not all. He has his occasional little preachy moment where he's like, I believe in humanity and the human spirit. And,
And
but
then
like,
he's like, I love you.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with those statements in isolation, but when they're referring to their videos about fucking capitalism stopping climate change, no.
So, despite the gloominess of many topics, we want to approach them with informed and well-researched optimism. Not brushing humanity's very real challenges aside, but also not falling into the trap of pessimism. We want to inspire you to dream a little about the glorious future that we could actually build, but only if we believe it's possible. In the long run, we don't only want to do this on YouTube. The idea is for Kurzgesagt to be a positive influence across more media. On our TikTok channel, in the long-form content we're exploring, in apps, in the VR game that will be released later this year, and the games we plan to make in the future. Our shop is a central part of this vision. We start our stories with a video and end them with a poster. There are so many things we want to do, and thanks to you watching this right now, we have the freedom to work to the best of our knowledge and ability. In the end, we hope you like what we offer and that we'll be doing something worthwhile for as long as we exist. And hopefully, we'll have a lasting impact by making science and learning more fun for as many people as possible. If you personally want to help us do this, you can watch and share our videos, check out our shop, become a Patreon, or give us an ad blocker exception. We exist because of you, and you have no idea how
Entirely superficial nonsense criticism.
Patreon.
Become a Patreon.
much we appreciate that you're here. And hopefully, we're less of a black box now. In any case, doing Kurzgesagt for a decade has been a pretty crazy ride. And so, from the whole team, thank you so much for being with us all these years.
they gotta read Climate Leviathan and How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, they'd make much better videos if they did.
They gotta.
Also, being angry at the state of the world and using that anger to fight for a better world is not being negative. It's not only happy-go-lucky feelings that make the world a better place. Yes, again in isolation, but on this topic, Glaucus, like, specifically the issue here is that they were saying that that capitalist technocrats and technological innovation will solve the problem. So just kind of sit back and don't worry about it. Like they still said like no,
vote with your wallet
you need
and
to
vote at the polls.
Exactly, right? They said you got to vote.
Take fewer flights, maybe.
Right.
And then we'll probably be fine. With that.
Right. Exactly. So what it's like, yeah, there are happy-go-lucky feelings as you put it there, but like it's they're saying don't be paralyzed by your pessimism and doomerism. Be paralyzed by electoral politics and capitalism.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
And like in this thing I'm working on,
that's really gonna send people right back to the pessimism and the doomerism.
Right. It's a crucial point that like engaging in capitalism and electoral politics makes you fucking pessimistic and paralyzed. Absolutely. It's a completely paralyzing thing.
If you care at all about any of these things, yeah.
Right. Okay, let's watch Overpopulation in Africa, shall we? You ready?
Oh.
Are you extremely ready for a powerful video? Shout if you see it. There's Who's to Blame. That's 10 minutes long. I don't want to watch that right now because I do want to read. I do want to read something from the New Statesman.
For most of our history, the human population grew slowly, until new discoveries brought us more food and made us live longer. In just 100 years, the human population quadrupled. This led to apocalyptic visions of an overcrowded Earth. But the population growth rate actually peaked in the 1960s. Since then, fertility rates have crashed as countries industrialize and develop. The world population is now expected to balance out at around 11 billion by the end of the century. But the big picture can see...
Well, that was a quick video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Well, let's go check out the New Statesman. If you've been enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe, watch or donate directly as a command tip. Okay, okay, alright. The big picture conceals the details is the next sentence. We're going to hear about Africa specifically in a minute.
I hope that they are refuting some racist eugenicist conceptions.
I'm not sure.
But even the framing, just like the title of the video in the first place is like, why the specific concern for Africa in the first place?
I think we might be in trouble. Yeah. No, I think we might actually be in trouble. Okay, but now...
I am also afraid Octavian Super.
Unironically... If you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe, watch or donate directly using command tip. If you have a Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch account, and then you can give us money for free. We get the real money. You don't pay anything. It's very cool, etc. And so on. Sniff. Africa.
Reveals the details. Let's look at one. The world population is now expected to balance out at around 11 billion by the end of the century. But the big picture conceals the details. Let's look at one region in particular, Sub-Saharan Africa. In 2019, it was home to 1 billion people.
Sub-Saharan is
silly us thinking that it was going to be about all of Africa.
Why would they include?
But it's about Sub-Saharan Africa.
Like for me, that's just it's a very mainstream liberal racist dog whistle.
Yeah.
Dog whistle at this point, but it's completely standard in.
Yeah, pretty bad.
But it's not okay. It's just like not really a like politically coherent region to map out as separate.
No.
Except for just kind of projected imaginary racist reasons. Africa is an incredibly diverse population mixed in many different places, but there's an impression that, north of the Sahara is more Arab and less
let's just
black south of the Sahara.
Let's not leave this unsaid, right?
But
the Egyptians and the Carthaginians are part of a history that fucking white supremacist fascists track, right? And they see sub-Saharan Africans, like the only reason to make this distinction really, like you say, it's all over academia, but like it's not cohesive. It's not.
No,
it's not cogent at all.
It's not at all.
It's specifically like Northwest Africa, Carthage, and Northeast Africa, Egypt is this thing that's familiar enough, because even though the Carthaginians were the enemy in Roman history, right, they're still a respectable empire, and that's the crucial bit, right? Is the idea of building empire and the idea of building the pyramids, whereas. So undeniably, there was some kind of great civilizational achievements in, you know, what would you say, supra-Saharan Africa? North Africa, anyway.
They were all over.
Of course there fucking were. No, I obviously agree with that. I'm saying that, like, the construction of this region is for racist reasons directly.
Yes.
All right.
People living in 46 countries. Although its growth rate has slowed down in the last few decades, it's still much higher than in the rest of the world. While some projections expect around 2.6 billion people, others reckon with up to 5 billion by 2100. Such growth would be a huge challenge for any society. But sub-Saharan Africa is also the poorest region on Earth. So, is sub-Saharan Africa doomed? And why do the projections vary by 2.4 billion people? As always, it's complicated. Sub-Saharan Africa is a made-up idea, and in many ways an unhelpful one. Botswana is as far away from Sierra Leone as Ireland is from Kazakhstan, and they have about as much in common. But without generalizing a little bit, this video would be an hour long. We've also talked to many different scientists for this video, and they disagreed on a lot of things.
That whipped so hard. That whipped so fucking hard.
That framing doesn't make sense, but we're going to use it anyway.
This does not make any sense. That said, let's go.
Yeah.
On how much fertility matters to poverty. We've done our best to summarize our research and what they told us, but take it with a grain of salt, and check out our sources where we discuss this in.
I'm just gonna pop upstairs because the washing machine is making the whole house loud.
Just to be fair, so much academic research sure does like break up regions in that way and address sub-Saharan Africa as a region, and so if that research is where you're getting your information from for a video, that's
that's a bit better.
yeah.
Oh god. Okay, so we're going to be talking about how poverty affects fertility.
It's magic.
Love this so much. If you're new and you're joining us, we're watching the Kurzgesagt video, Overpopulation and Africa, which they said was one of the videos that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They didn't say whether it's one of the ones that they were told to make by the foundation, but we'll see. Hey Andy, lovely to see you. Poverty and fertility. On my bingo sheet, at least on my bingo sheet, we've got people having fewer babies because they're more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very sure that they'll.
Cool.
I mean, they specifically said already, as like more industrialized nations have less population growth.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's just more convenient to have fewer kids when you live in cities and shit.
More detail. Okay, let's zoom out to the global perspective again. A few decades ago, many countries in Asia were at a similar point to sub-Saharan Africa today. Large parts of the population were living in extreme poverty and birth rates were very high. Take Bangladesh. In the 1960s, the average woman had 7 children in her lifetime. 25% of them died before they turned 5, and of the ones that survived, only 1 in 5 would learn to read and write. Life expectancy was around 45, and per capita income was among the lowest in the world. So beginning in the 1960s, Bangladesh started a family planning program based on 3 main pillars: 1. Education helped to change women's outlook. Women with a higher education tend to want fewer kids and become mothers later in life. 2. Better healthcare lowered child mortality, leading to parents wanting fewer children because they could expect them to survive. 3. Field workers brought contraceptives even to the remotest areas, which drove contraceptive use from 8% in 1975 to 76% in 2019. Together, these measures greatly slowed down population growth. In 1960, the average Bangladeshi woman had 7 kids. In 1995, 4, and in 2019, it was down to 2. This also changed the country's demographics and the economy. Before, many children were born but died before they got to contribute to society. As far fewer kids die and fewer kids are born, things change. Kids get an education and turn into productive adults. The government was able to...
Okay, do we see again how the liberal scientific approach to people and life and society just blends so neatly into eugenics?
Yeah.
These children would die before they got to contribute to society.
Not before they got to live, not before
Right.
they got to experience life, not
Before
before they got to
yeah.
experience love and
Yeah.
be loved.
Yeah. Before their first birthday, before their first Christmas. None of this. Just, yeah. Incredible.
shift some of their resources from lowering child mortality to boosting the economy. By 2024, Bangladesh is expected to graduate from the category of least developed countries to the status of a developing economy.
Okay. Nat, you are still learning to stream. You are still on your pathway to becoming a great streamer.
Nat
do you
stream
want
arc.
to do Nat debate streamer arc? Do you wanna take developing countries? You should be able to, because it's literally you who explained it to me in the first place.
So there's obviously an implied pathway of development that takes countries from looking like looted, pillaged, post-colonial societies that have had their wealth and labor stolen for the profit of imperialists, to, you know, in their imagination, European and, you know, settler colonial societies are the peak of civilization, and every other country is just on a pathway to eventually look like those countries. And so this is where you get, you know, frameworks like developing country and least developed countries, where there's especially excessive poverty. And you know, what they're really describing is this kind of relationship between the imperial core and the imperial periphery, countries that have been looted and exploited through colonialism, and then through neocolonialism, through capitalism and imperialism.
Nailed it. I didn't have to do any work at all there, and people are still, you know, subscribing, giving me money. So, you know, my grift is running strong.
They're not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
Bingo.
Exactly.
I wanted to say also, like, when people have been debunking fascists talking about declining white birth rates, something that they frequently point out is that within the imperial core, one really prominent reason that people don't have kids is that most people are working class. And inside the imperial core, there is an enormous wealth gap.
Yeah.
Right? And Elon Musk is he's having as many kids as he can because he literally sees it as like him improving the population by having more kids. And he and other wealth freaks, like they're covering this on some more news, right? The rich, the ultra wealthy people who have signed up to a program for their kids to keep having like 8 kids each for 11 generations. Insane. But yeah, most people are working class. So if you're talking about like declining birth rates in these countries, one of the most prominent reasons that people don't have kids is because they can't afford to have kids.
And those countries are countries where they have, you know, typically everything is set up to expect massive immigrant workforces, where the deal for capitalists is they don't have, you know, the ruling class is they don't have to fund their childhood, they don't have to fund their schooling, they don't have to fund their healthcare. Their expectation is that people come for, you know, their working years of life while they abuse and like legally abuse them, so that they're more and more exploitable as workers, and then they can keep them on constant tenterhooks that they're going to be deported on a moment's notice, so that they don't have to take care of them when they're old.
That said, I just want to have a small caveat, having referred to the white birth rates discourse, just to not leave it unsaid. White is a thing you cannot define in population terms. It's something you can define very easily politically, because it's the category manufactured by white supremacy to enable racism. But like, in terms of determining whether people are white or not, and therefore telling whether there are more or less white people than there used to be.
Yeah, nonsense.
Utter fucking gibberish. But especially because of the nature of whiteness, which is that like it can never be polluted by other races, right? So it's just like, yes, of course you're going to have a shrinking proportion of those people compared to everyone else. If you are saying they can never marry anyone else, that's how. That's just how having kids works. Okay. Enjoying stream, paying for stream, subscribe to cheer, donate directly to a command tip.
Other Asian countries like South Korea, India, Thailand or the Philippines have gone through a similar process, often even faster. Investment in health and education led to lower...
Sorry, I don't want to let that one slip by us. The graph they were showing us there was actually a historical index of human development. Because I was thinking they've just been talking about birth rates. Oh my god, we haven't even got it on screen. What am I? No one can see it. I'm talking about shit that no one can even see. I was thinking because they've been talking about birth rates going down, and then in this graph they show, you know, things rising. I was like, what is this? It's historical index of you. That's me patting myself on the back for looking at the title on the graph. Yeah, good job, me. Historical index of human development. It was really worthwhile you having a little tangent to like talk about development as as this like capitalist hegemonic concept.
Humans, like
more.
What are their markers?
For real, more developed humans. Like this is literally like, yeah.
You know, I'm sure they're gonna have like markers like education and health and but like also from 1900, like what kind of fucking wacky data are they using there? Like
yeah. Well, it's like there is a really like a particular nature to like Western imperialist history, right? Where mostly just looking at stuff from 1900 is all that really matters to our politics now, right? And it's because around about 1900, they were absolutely on top of the world. They had all their empires, they had all their colonies. Yeah. The sun never sets on the British Empire, etc., etc. So it's like you got all these graphs, right? And they're all starting from right down at the bottom for human development at 1900. It's like, well, were they only ever there throughout the previous 1,900 years and all the years before that? Or would you actually find that in some ways they were more developed at some earlier point, and then something mysteriously happened to them? I don't know, just worth saying.
Often even faster. Investment in health and education led to lower birth rates, which changed the composition of the population and enabled governments to boost the economy. Why didn't the same thing happen everywhere in sub-Saharan Africa? Africa as a whole...
Go back.
You need to go back?
I need to see that bit again. I think
and enabled governments.
I think some things were said too, babe.
Back to the graph and.
Oh, okay, we're going right back. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Through a similar process, often even faster. Investment in health and education led to lower birth rates, which changed the composition of the population and enabled governments to boost the economy. Why didn't the same thing happen everywhere in sub-Saharan Africa?
Enabled governments to boost the economy.
That is so much nonsense. Where is their fucking mechanism for that? Like, it's fucking transparent, fucking easy to see that, like, the process of creating worker subjects for capitalism, for industry, involves, like, standardized education and health as well, right?
Yeah.
For reproducing worker subjects, and those things also led to, like, you know, contributed to declining birth rates, and as well as the rapidly shifting living conditions, as masses of people all over the world in so many countries in this span of time that they're talking about moved from countryside to city, where they could find work because everything was being taken from them.
Yeah.
And
where it's, as you were just saying a minute ago, less convenient to have kids.
Yeah, where it's less convenient to have a lot of children, not enough space.
They're suddenly in the working class as opposed to the peasantry.
Right.
You know, as opposed to the kind of the somewhat free associative nature of living in the countryside, that, like, it's kind of harder to point at class divisions when ultimately, like, you know, people are so spread out, and, like, what you have is what you have. Like, obviously some people are richer and poorer and do have class relations to each other. I just think they're not as felt as in the city.
Yeah.
Anyway,
why
didn't that happen to Africa?
Makes no fucking sense. Like,
why didn't this happen to Africa?
Saying that because fertility rate dropped, that was what created good economy. It doesn't make any sense that they put that way around.
No, it's really infuriating. Also, just the governments were able to boost the economy is just like, it's just like, well, there's also, like, there's an implicit thing to what they're saying, which again is totally typical of liberals, and so perfect point for the liberal slop stream. Actually, I'll go full screen for us to say it, right? Liberals love to implicitly tell you that we're on an even playing field playing the same game. And they love to say that with people, right? So they love to let you think that the ultra rich, the ultra wealthy, the ultra rich have, like, gotten what they've gotten by being self-made and working hard and all of this shit, right? More or less explicitly. Like, sometimes they'll try and really hide that one away, and sometimes it'll be implicit, like I'm talking about here, where it's just a natural assumption of what they've said. They love to do that with people. They also love to do that with countries.
Yeah.
Why are these countries not more developed? Right? These countries are more developed, and these countries are less developed. They're all developing the same way. Eventually, they'll all be developed.
Obviously, every country in the world just wants to, you know, every person in every country in the world would just be better off if they
were developed.
So
everyone wants to be developed.
And behaved like European imperial societies. And also, the world would be better off if everyone did that. Don't go thinking about climate change ever again.
But in the same way that, like, to tell us that we're all playing the same game, only Elon Musk is better at that game than you are, ignores the ways that you might directly or indirectly work for Elon Musk. So you can't, like, succeed at that game and be the boss instead.
Yes.
There's not a pathway for you to do that.
It relies on masses of people doing the work to create the imperial core worker subject.
In the same way,
labor aristocracy.
In the same way, to have this development pathway thing and which ones are more or less developed implies that all of them can develop the same way. That we could look at a future where everyone has developed past a certain line. Every country has developed past a certain line where we all agree everything's chill. No one needs to compete anymore because we've all developed enough. And then Bangladesh might be the richest country in the world. Or next week it might be Suriname. Who knows? It could be Nigeria. It might be Algeria. Who knows? It could be any country. No, that's just not the way it fucking works. The richest countries in the world are the richest because they are imperial extractors, and they are taking wealth and labor and goods from other countries.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying. Like, to imply that we're all playing the same game, to tell you that you as a person are playing the same game as your boss, only your boss is better at it than you are, right? That's the liberal mindset on an individual basis,
Classic
on a country by
social
country
mobility
basis,
logics.
on a global basis, right? This whole development index thing is telling us that it would be possible for these other countries to develop enough to be more developed than America.
Yeah.
And that's not possible on this development pathway, because this development pathway necessarily involves imperialist relationships, right? You aren't going to keep on being exploited by America until you reach a point where you're exploiting America instead. That's not going to happen, right? That's just not going to fucking happen. Fuck, there was another thing I really wanted to say about this. Also, just like, it takes everything in isolation, and that is another pit. Like, even besides the fact that it is doing that to hide the imperialist relations, and that it does hide the imperialist relations, it's doing everything in isolation, and that's fucking ridiculous.
As if there's no relationship between all of these countries.
As if there's no relationship
between
between these countries.
As if there's no relationship, like, there's no...
No, but...
mode of production and economic relationship between these countries that means that one of these countries looks like this and one of these countries looks like this.
Bingo. If we wanted a more honest little Kurzgesagt animated thing, right, you'd see Brazil-ass pipes, right, sinking into each of those, 60 countries or whatever, right, all over sub-Saharan Africa, right, and just, like, minerals shooting up the pipes that go to America. Or... more accurately, right, go to China and Taiwan and Vietnam, and then goods getting shot through a new pipe after they've been manufactured to go to America. It's a good time to recommend that everyone reads Automation and the Future of Work by Aaron Bananoff. This idea of development can be linked in really closely with the idea of automation, right? The idea that we will industrialize, we will develop, we will improve things. Eventually, people won't have to work. Now, this people won't have to work thing is double-edged, right? Because we understand that in a capitalist society, people shouldn't have to work. We could replace their jobs with a machine, and then that person gets the money anyway. But realistically, the business is just going to fire them and keep the money, right? So people will just be put out of work and instead will be unemployed. The name of the book is Automation and the Future of Work by Aaron Bananoff. And firstly, Bananoff points out that actually people end up underemployed less than they end up unemployed. But more importantly, he points out the history of industrialization as a concept, right? That industrialization is when a country shifts to having an industrial sector economy. They are manufacturing stuff, right? They are taking in raw materials and putting out manufactured goods. And then deindustrialization, the next step in this very same capitalist development pathway, is when they shift from having an industrial sector economy to having something else. In the case of the imperial core countries, a service sector economy. Only this is like a disgusting lie. This is a horrific fucking lie, and really just shoots holes through the entire notion of it being like an economic science. It's not a fucking economic science. It's them saying the way we did it is right, they should be trying to copy us. Only that's not even what they want. They don't want...
Yeah, it's not possible. It's not...
They don't want China and Bangladesh to deindustrialize.
Yeah.
Because if those countries deindustrialize, who will manufacture the goods for the rest of the world?
Right.
They don't want that. They want those countries to remain
also,
industrialized.
That means more competition for the industries and sectors that
Bingo.
are running in imperial core countries.
Right. So this entire idea of this development pathway, which includes industrialization and deindustrialization, it's like, that's not why we deindustrialized. Our countries didn't shift out of industrial sector economies because we wanted to be further along the development pathway, where everyone had a nicer job that's easier. It wasn't. It wasn't that the people in charge. Can I say this?
Yeah.
It wasn't that the people in charge were like, people are working their fingers to the bone in factories and mines. It would be so much nicer if they got to be baristas. We should change our entire working class into baristas instead. That wasn't what happened. What happened was those miners and factory workers were fucking unionized, and the ruling class was threatened. So they exported all of their industrial labor, right, to other countries instead, and forced the economy into a service sector economy to force everyone into new jobs where there weren't strong unions. That's what fucking happened. So the idea of saying that way that it was done, that was the right way to do it, in these other countries, they should be doing it too. It's like, under what historical material conditions? How? How would they do it too? They wouldn't, unless there were more countries downstream of them they could kick their industrialization onto.
Which does happen.
Which does literally happen, but it's not a viable model for the entire world, one closed system of a planet.
Everyone gets to be the boss.
Communism is when you're all girl bosses.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that was really long-winded.
No, it was great.
Really needed to say the entire notion of development is based on this idea that we have undeveloped, industrialized, deindustrialized. Because firstly, I mean, that's even that is pretending that's what we went through, which isn't even accurate, right? Because it was there was
stole labor,
feudal, then there was colonial, then there was industrialized colonial.
There was chattel fucking slavery in there, like.
Exactly. So does the WEF or the IMF, right, or the World Bank think that there's a necessary part of human development where, like, China should have chattel slavery for a little while and then abolish it? No.
It really, like, it just, that's what I was going to say before, and this just does even more so, really highlights the bizarre nature of, like, this kind of teleological perspective on political development. Like, that's like, this is how things have happened here, and so this is how things will happen and should happen elsewhere.
So why isn't Africa like that? Well, the answer is kind of twofold, right? They are mineral-rich countries. There's a lot to extract there, and that means that they aren't very invested in creating any jobs there that they can, export the labor, right? It doesn't. If Shell can go into a country, take the oil out of the ground and fuck off again, they'll do it entirely with their own people.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have any investment whatsoever in giving jobs or any kind of money to that country whatsoever.
There was a map, a colonial era map of Africa drawn out where Europeans had marked countries that they'd marked out for, like, settling and turning into settler colonial societies, and that was their plan. And countries in Africa that they'd marked for just resource extraction. Yeah. And the consequences of how they approached those countries, like, still is very evident today. Like, the Central African countries were just marked out for resource extraction, just absolutely brutal. Like,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then the second of the twofold is it's just fucking racism.
Yes.
We think in white supremacy that there's white people and there's everyone else, but there isn't, right? White supremacists do very seriously, and white supremacy means that all of the fucking governments of the world very seriously view Africans as the least valuable human beings in the world and treat them like it on a policy, economic, social, political level.
Well, like, so much of what has further, like, stolen from African countries is like loans framed as charity, like, like,
yeah, totally,
we're gonna help you develop and force you into debt for the, like, foreseeable future. Africa, so much more capital leaves Africa than enters every year.
Okay, let's let's carry on with this fucking thing, because they're just saying, I paused it at the point of them saying, why hasn't this happened for Africa? They've just looked at Bangladesh, right? We're going to look at why hasn't this happened for Africa? I have my reasons. Let's see what Kurzgesagt has to say, funded by the Gates Foundation.
Africa as a whole has made considerable progress with childhood mortality. But especially in sub-Saharan Africa, education has improved slower than in other parts of the world. And while in total contraceptive use has doubled in the region since 1990, the unmet need for modern contraception among adolescents is still at about 60%. The reasons for this are complicated, and it's impossible to give a single answer here. Africa is a big
Sorry, it's impossible to give a single answer, but if Kurzgesagt gets to say sub-Saharan Africa isn't a real thing, and then just say sub-Saharan Africa for the rest of the video, I'm gonna take my one as well. We get one, right? So they've said you can't give a single reason. Here's my single reason. It's the scene from West Wing, where the pharmaceutical company who make drugs for HIV, right, say that even if they gave the drugs for free to people in Africa, they wouldn't be able to take them on time at the right times of day because none of them have watches, right? That scene would be, if I had to give my essay answer, I would just include a YouTube link to that scene. It's just that scene. That's my one answer for okay, all right.
Place with diverse cultures and people, but there are a few main factors. Many sub-Saharan nations have suffered.
I just want to say as well, like, we can all think of, you know, they've just really breezed past any rationalization for why high fertility rates is a bad thing that needs to be changed. And it's not like,
yeah,
you know, it's not like
they said there were scary stories about how populated the world was going to be, but they didn't explore whether those were valid stories based on anything, extremely racist stories. It's that one's
right. So it's like, regardless of, they're still simply purely problematizing like fertility rates and population in Africa.
Yeah.
And that's horrifying. And while we can see that like fertility rates dropping is often a function of things that we see as typically good, useful, like women having more agency over reproduction, available contraception, you know, same deal, and like education and understanding about people's bodies, like those are useful, good things, and we can see how they're related to declining fertility rates, but like there's not an explanation in this video for why declining fertility rates are in themselves positive.
Yeah.
Why they're something that should be aimed towards.
Yeah.
Like, if it is simply a function of other good things, then fine. We can do good things.
Right.
But
you can infer from the video that there are two main points, which is finite resources, right? And which is just you just infer from overpopulation in general. Like the concept of being overpopulated is just that there isn't enough stuff. And secondly is the human development one, right? Which is that they explained that where there were higher birth rates, there was also high infant mortality and just lower quality of life.
Right, but it's the other way around, isn't it? It's like there's high birth rates because there's high infant mortality. So again, it's like addressing infant mortality is another thing that
people aren't stupid. They are
down.
actually quite aware that like they have 5 kids, knowing one of them's gonna die.
Yeah, like literally.
Yeah.
And when, you know, often.
Many the caption on screen reads, many sub-Saharan nations have suffered under colonialism until only a few decades ago. So firstly, just like pretending colonialism's over, that's cool. Yeah. That's great. That fucking whips. Secondly, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe at Euro, donate directly using command tip. If you all are very generous with the tips, I'm gonna get a pizza. I'm just saying. I'm gonna get a little pizza. Yeah. It's gonna whip. Okay. I'm gonna rewind ever so slightly so that we don't get this like halfway through. I want to see precisely. It's just the lead in of that sentence reads quite like, now you never have to hand it to the Nazis, but so I want to see.
Main factors. Many sub-Saharan nations have suffered under colonization until only a few decades ago and had rough transition periods towards independence. The young nations were often ethnically heterogeneous and
because France kept assassinating democratically elected leaders.
lacked unity. Some areas have been repeatedly racked by civil wars, military conflicts, or suffered under unstable governments, which made it really hard to expand infrastructure and healthcare. So Africa had a worse starting point than Asia. Foreign aid and how it was applied, especially during the Cold War, is also a contentious issue. But this topic is too complex to summarize in a few sentences.
Oh, it's a contentious issue that's too complex to summarize in a few sentences. No, foreign aid is a tool of imperialism. America grows too much fucking corn and sugar and shit like this, so they flood
and
other
cotton.
countries. Cotton, right?
They produce 90% of the world's cotton. Right? Why is that?
So they just flood other countries' markets with those commodities,
so they can continue to subsidize.
So they can subsidize those farms and those farmers in their own country, and they're like, "This is foreign aid. You're getting aid from us. It's a nice gift." Only those are countries that have their own cotton, sugar, corn industries, their own farmers growing those crops, and then those farmers they can't give those crops away anymore, let alone make a fucking profit, because their country is suddenly full of the American crops, right? Foreign aid is a tool of domination, and this is never clearer than when you see there are literally countries who have said, "Fuck you, we're not taking your aid." And America has been like, "Okay, you'll take our armed border patrols then. You'll take our fighter jets flying over you 5 times a day then, instead."
They do present it, India refused foreign aid from Britain after independence, and it was a very wise decision. And now when you see countries refusing aid, sometimes there'll be some wacky bullshit involved, but it'll often be completely unjustifiably represented as if it's like a rogue state.
Yeah, totally. No, it's like
oppressing its people.
A country that refuses aid is immediately on a 5-year pipeline to be a country that is receiving sanctions. Like, the media, the consent manufacturing machine starts spinning its wheels the moment a country refuses American foreign aid or British foreign aid, imperialist foreign aid, because then they can start saying, "What's going on in that country? They turned down aid. Yeah. Their government is mistreating their citizens by refusing our aid. Clearly, there's more to look into here. Has anyone done a survey of their human rights violations? Is anyone checking up on how they're treating their citizens? We've heard from this man." Extremely rich McRacist, who says that he lived in the country until just last year when it was getting too authoritarian. Yes, they have pronouns now there. They have liberal universities teaching people about communism. Clearly, we need to send in some kind of intervention. This place is torturing their fucking citizens with pronouns.
In a British context, many of the people who worked in the sort of foreign aid, like departments of the government, NGOs, were promoted laterally because previously they'd all worked in, we're talking about like the 60s here, this is extremely recent history. There is colour footage of Ghana's, Ghanaian Independence Day, like the first, them gaining their independence. those people who were running the like colonial management were promoted sideways into, you know, charitable aid work positions because they had some knowledge of the region and had relationships there already. And so it's the same people with the same like objectives.
Yes.
Who are working in those industries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tamworth's Tita, thank you very much for the £20 tip. How much is a pizza costing there these days? Well, more than that, but I still appreciate the £20
Beautiful,
tip.
thank you
That's
so
very
much.
nice of you. It'll go into the pizza fund.
So we'll make a whole video about it in the future. And lastly, there are cultural aspects.
Okay, sorry to be just fucking immediately pausing again, but like right after I'd paused to say foreign aid is a contentious topic, and I was like, the rest of that sentence was, so we'll make a full video about it in the future. So that's one to watch out for. If they've already made that video, we're not watching it today. I want to get into some New Statesman shit, but like, oof.
Just to frame the context again, this whole video, which is specifically problematizing birth rates and population in Africa as something to be concerned about, was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yes, the kind of racists who say, people are dying crossing the channel. We need to shut down this illegal immigration because it's killing people. I'm not a racist. I just see these poor people who are getting trafficked and smuggled into the country, and that's a problem. I care more than these supposed progressive leftists who want to just open borders. How many more people would be human trafficked if we just had open borders? None is the answer, of course, because if you had an open border, you wouldn't, right?
You just go where you
but
want.
you just go where you want legally. But this is the exact same logic is saying, right? I care so much about Africa and I'm so well informed about its problems, right? While keeping yourself purposely blind to all of the things that actually caused Africa's problems, white people, right? But it's the same logic as saying I care more than the leftists do about immigrants.
Yeah.
That's why I want
Like-
to stop all immigration.
Bill Gates is like proudly like, now I'm not interested in politics. I'm not interested in those games. I don't know about that. I just love the science and I love the future and I love helping people. And, you know, this is inherently political. Meanwhile, he is promoting, pushing and acting out like his eugenicist values. Like so much of the capital and money and investment in in healthcare institutions in Africa is directly from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which does mean that Bill and Melinda Gates have this like incredible amount of power and control over the health of masses of people on this enormous continent.
Yeah.
Where'd they get their qualifications from? They literally just
Okay.
took people's time and money.
That's a good sound.
Yeah.
Jess gave me these Imperial credits as a present because she loves Star Wars. She was just visiting last week. It's good. All right, I'll stop playing with it because it is also very loud. Lastly, there are cultural aspects.
Make talking about family planning in the context of Africa difficult. Critics say that trying to bring fertility down is an intrusion into culture and tradition, but not speaking about an issue.
Octavian Soup, thank you for tipping £10 and saying, get that Tsar. The Tsar problem has now been resolved. Thank you very much. Anyone else who wants to tip, it will go towards us having Tsar on other days.
Going around telling people that they should have fewer kids because you want them to is an intrusion on their cultures and tradition.
And eugenics.
And their family life and eugenics. This video has not proven to me in any sense. It has barely even tried to actually demonstrate and evidence the idea that lowering fertility rates is on its own a cause of good things.
Yeah.
Rather than doing good things often leads to lower fertility rates.
Yeah, because if you're going to use that as your metric for how things are going, which they do throughout the video,
Right.
Right,
That's not a justification for
Yeah.
deliberately, purposefully trying to reduce fertility rates, rather than doing the good things that also lead to low fertility rates.
I just want to
right?
say that as of right now, there are 666 comments on my Theranos video. That's all.
Will
I'm trying to
not
think of a
help solve
metaphor.
it.
Okay.
Trying to think of a metaphor, right?
Okay, okay.
There's a huge difference between, like, I can't think of a metaphor. You can think of a metaphor for me. There's a huge difference.
Okay, I guess I'm going to be thinking of a metaphor, sure.
The difference between, like, creating the conditions in which people will make the choices that are best for them, but you don't determine what those choices are, and you don't determine that one choice is better than another. You just create the conditions in
giving
which
people
people have
sovereignty.
agency
Yeah, giving people
over
sovereignty.
their family life,
Giving people sovereignty, yes.
versus actually, like, fucking pushing people to make the choices that you want because you're a eugenicist.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of this fucking eugenicist framing that they have, that they're using for everything. Froggy Chair, thank you so much for the £10 and saying for garlic bread. I guess we're getting garlic bread now. You know, all of this fucking framing, all of this, like,
That's pizza sorted.
as I keep on,
So excited.
that's what I'm saying. All of the other tips, they'll go to pizza on other days, or get this, we could have other food that isn't pizza. What the fuck was I gonna say? No, I've been saying this for a bunch of liberal slop streams now. The whole worldview relies on them looking at society as if they were in charge, imagining what would I do if I was in charge. So all of it is paternalistic.
Yes.
So when you're saying the difference here, right?
Necessarily racist.
The metaphor
necessarily eugenicist.
The metaphor I would use is like a family, right? It's just
You're
like
absolutely right.
it's like they see themselves as the parents of the family.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then like if you're a good parent, even if you accept the like paternalistic framing, if you're a good parent, you let your kid do what they want. You let them choose their own life. Right? But even within their own paternalistic framework,
They're bad
they
parents.
aren't good parents.
Yeah.
They're horrible parents
Yes.
who are like, you are going to come work at the factory with me.
Yeah.
You are going to do exactly the job I did until you work your way up to the top, and then you will run the place.
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous. Okay, let's carry on.
Not all of these things apply to every country in the region. We're talking about 46 countries after all, some of them deeply troubled, others already flourishing, all different and facing unique problems. If population growth continues at its present rate, then sub-Saharan Africa could grow to more than 4 billion.
Why would it? I always just think these predictions
If it continues at its
for
current rate,
100
yeah.
years is stupid. There's literally like, okay, it's going at that rate now.
Yeah.
Things fucking change.
Yeah.
If overpopulation is actually any kind of fucking issue,
Yeah.
if that's fucking real in any sense at all, people will have less kids because it will become less convenient to have kids. It will
Yeah.
become less sustainable in their immediate personal life to
Yeah.
take care of kids when there aren't like resources available to them. When they don't have space to live,
Yeah.
you know, when they don't have fucking like
Well,
people will
throughout-
make the decisions for
throughout
their
the whole of
family
this-
lives that like make sense to them. Like, why would it just carry on according to their predictions? Because things do actually fucking change. You can't look at history like that. Like,
You're still debunking the video. You're not doing the liberal slop
Right,
stream.
yeah.
You have
That's
to
what
take
I'm
a
here for.
you have to take a breath.
Yeah.
You got to step back, and then you got to say, "Chat, look, this is how liberals think. They don't believe in any historical material conditions. So when things happen in history, they think there's a data trend they can follow. And they can say, across the sample size of all the countries in the world, this thing happened in these many countries. This indicates that this. No. There are historical, political, material relationships between countries that affect things in a directional way. You know? You can't just say, these countries started educating their population.
Like this.
These populations became literate.
You're right, because every like the whole framing of the thing is like, why is Africa different?
I am right.
You're absolutely right. Like, what is even the need to explain difference? Difference is normal. Like, we live on a diverse, interesting planet.
Are different.
It's actually a complicated world that we live in. Why does it even need explaining? Like, that is how liberals approach history. That differences to the hegemonic idea of the norm, like already industrialized Western majority white countries, have to be that those anomalies have to be explained rather than understanding like the sort of diverse and interconnected courses of history.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And it's just like when I said before, I said this 2 liberal slop streams ago now, it bears repeating. Liberals don't have a class analysis. Is your incorrect assumption, you rube. You just nodded, you fucking stooge.
It's just a bad one. They don't have a good class
They have a class analysis, but their class analysis is crucially lacking that they say rich people and poor people. Because again, they're assuming everything's a level playing field, everything is very scientific, there's the population and there's data trends, and there's quantitative research and there's amounts of money, right? But no, there's a working class and a fucking ruling class.
Yes.
And these are distinct, fucking barely mutable things.
And it's a relationship.
There is next to no social mobility in our society. For a reason. Because it's a society of an owner class and a working class who are subjugated by them.
And the richer the ruling class gets, the poorer the working class gets. Not just because they take money from them, but because that's how money works. It's relational, and if the rich have more, then yours is worth less.
Yes. Frog Powered Train, thank you so much for gifting 4 tier 1 subs to the community. Ghost Dunk, Whiplax, Ad Cameron 93, and Rahales. You are now all tier 1 subs. You can now use tier 1 subscriber emotes like CIA Femboy and MILF Pills. Congratulations. When you use them in other people's chats, this is how other people will react. They'll be blown away. Anyway, what were we just doing? I was right. I remember I was right about something. That was the important bit. I think I was right. Yeah. Liberals do have a class analysis, but it's again assuming that everyone is fundamentally on an even playing field and there are no historical conditions whatsoever. But actually, I actually do want to return to what you were saying, because I was focused on Frog Power Trains buying the gift subs, but you were very right to say, right? Money is instructional tokens. And the wealth divide will continue to widen without intervention, naturally, because if more people, right, if one group of people have more of the token that says, do what I want, and can give it temporarily to the other people in a way they know they'll get it back, what thing are they going to tell them to do primarily? Here are a few. Reproduce the society they already live in, which they benefit from. Give them back the tokens. And give them more tokens next time. And that's literally the nature of capitalism, is that there should always be a return on investment. Always your business should grow year by year. So of course the wealth divide will continue to widen. The wealth divide will always continue to widen under capitalism without intervention. Because that's how money works on a fundamental level. It's instructional. And so if the ruling class have all that money, and they can give you just enough to survive, and then you give it back because you're only able to, all you have is just enough to survive. You have, here's my instructional tokens. I'm using them to instruct the Deliveroo guy to bring me a pizza, right? The money's gone back to Deliveroo. Mr. Deliveroo has that money now, and he's going to give it to people who will do what he says, and then those people will give it to another guy to give them a pizza.
And furthermore, if a working class person gets given £1,000 by the government, for example, but the government in that same period of time, or just the economy, how it's operating, gives the ruling class £1 million in that period of time, that working class person is literally poorer because money is relational, it is an instruction token, and it is reflective of the relationships between people, and so that's inflation. If you can receive £1,000 and be poorer.
Yeah.
That's what happened during the pandemic. That's what happened during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
That's what we're experiencing. That is the cost of living crisis.
And it's
that's what we're going through.
It's also why UBI can't fucking work as a concept. If we have the political will of an organized working class, so much so that we could get UBI, and they offer us UBI, the only acceptable response is, fuck you, we deserve everything. Right? We cannot accept UBI because it's this ridiculous capitalist notion of an end of history, where they're going to give us all our $1,600 a month, right? And then we're going to give the $1,600 a month to our landlord, our utilities company, the Deliveroo guy to bring you pizza, buy a nice dress, I guess, or whatever, right? And we think that it's going great because before we couldn't afford to buy the nice dress.
Right, but we still can't save.
We thought that before, right, because we couldn't buy the nice dress, things were so bad. Yeah. And now, because we can buy the nice dress, things are so good. Oh, I can watch Netflix now.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can afford to take time off because I have my UBI to rely on. Right? I can take time to enjoy leisure. But no, that $1,600, it's spent at the end of the month. Where did it go? That's right, back to the ruling class. So if you and the entire population of your country, 60 million fucking people in the UK, right, all gave your £1,600 to the ruling class, then at the end of the month, right, at the start of the month, you each had £1,600. At the end of the month, the ruling class have 1,600 times 60 million. And next month, and next month, and next month, forever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the relationship between the labour aristocracy, working class, and the imperial core, and the, many times more exploited working class and sort of peasantry in the imperial periphery just gets further entrenched because...
Someone in chat is saying, I support UBI realistically as a necessary step. We're probably going to have to go through some version of that on the way to something better.
We already have some version of that, which is the welfare state. We already have...
UBI isn't a step to something better. UBI is something the ruling class will consider if the working class threatens them enough with organized labor. And they will consider it as a compromise to stop the working class from overthrowing them and building that better world on their own. So the only fucking situation in which we could get UBI are either they've figured out a way that it just rat fucks us completely, which is the more likely one, or we've organized enough that we could just have communism, and we should not accept their fucking crumbs off their table.
We also need to really think, a country like the UK is, they've already rebranded job seekers allowance as universal credit. They're very happy to just rebrand pre-existing social welfare programs that are a worse deal. In line with like the idea of UBI, but also the imperial core countries will allow privileged access for citizens.
Yep, for citizens.
To the welfare state.
Yep.
To maintain them.
Yep.
To keep them as a pool of surplus labour.
Yep.
Which can drive down wages, so capitalists get a cheap deal. But have a constant stream of
migrant labor.
Yep. To exploit and terrorize.
Living in caravans, paid less than minimum wage, horrible conditions, black mold, rats, terrifying racist bosses. Their passports have been taken away from them. They're literally trapped.
This is what's happening to EU
These are the people,
farm workers in Britain right now.
These are the people who pick your fucking cabbages that you buy in Tesco. Right?
And that doesn't get...
That'll be the same under UBI.
It doesn't get better with UBI. It's just shifting things around. It's the same thing. It's the same deal. And, like, this is basically what, like UAE...
Sorry. Someone nominally agreeing with me here has fucking economist in their username and has just said, leftists being so bad on economic ideas is one of our biggest mental hurdles, Kekwa. Get the fuck out of here. Literally get the fuck out of here.
What?
Economist? You calling yourself an economist, first of all, which, like, I don't need to spend more time on why that's fucking bullshit. And secondly, don't bring the fucking Twitter leftist discourse of the week in here. Mildred was right to say economics is fucking fake. It is. It's fucking fake as hell. Alright, I'm just playing... you don't have to fuck off. But, like, for real... we are right to say economics is fucking fake. We can understand the ways that... economics have real impacts. We can understand the mechanisms of them. But to say that, like, leftists are bad at getting economic ideas, I think that's absolutely absurd.
I think... that more economic literacy would be useful. I would like to learn more about economics.
I've been learning more about economics for the past, like, fucking 18 months. It just makes me angrier.
Yeah.
It's just raised my blood pressure. It hasn't made me better at fucking communicating to the working class, fucking encouraging organizing, fucking doing my job. None of this shit. It doesn't. Because ordinary people aren't like... Okay,
It's basically a language to learn for dealing with SocDems, like SocDem ideas.
I'm sorry I went off on you, my economist friend. Let me just do my spiel about UBI. We should carry on watching the video.
Yeah.
Here's my spiel about UBI. You pull up to the casino where you gamble every day. Outside, there are disabled people, queer people, black and brown people who queue to see if they can get into the casino, and they have no hope that they ever will. You walk straight past them and are handed $200 in free chips. And by the end of the day, you've gambled them all away, but you know you'll get $200 in free chips tomorrow. And you think you're a winner. That's it. Let's watch the video. Okay, 4 billion people. Oh no. Imagine if there were 4 billion people in Africa. That would be fucked up, right? That would be a bad thing somehow. We haven't explained how, but you should totally believe that would be bad.
They just said, this caused the economy to be good.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
And is that good?
Okay, let's...
people by 2100. Okay, so what can be done? Actually, a lot. Especially investment and aid that help to build systems for education, family planning, and healthcare. Surprisingly small changes could have an extreme impact. For example, if women get a better education and have their first child just 2 years later in life. This tiny gap between this generation and the next one would lead to 400 million fewer people in 2100, with 3.6 billion in total.
Okay, I'm really feeling what you've been complaining about now. Like, it's really actually hitting me. Like not explaining what is what's
good about that?
Unmitigatedly good about fewer people. It really hits hard when they're just going, if we educate women and they it's like, I think educating women is a good thing.
Fucking
I think
giving
that's a
people
good thing.
agency over their reproductive and family
But
life.
they're like, they go like,
fantastic.
we could do a good thing. We could do a thing that everyone agrees is good, educating women. And that would result in 400 million fewer people. And I'm like, well, I like people.
Right.
Blaz It says, my god, the cheering children sound effect for less black people. Yeah, literally. Bill Gates paid for a video where a crowd of children cheer when the narrator says 400 million less black people.
Like,
holy shit.
it's fucking horrible.
Okay.
If education and family planning are made available to every African woman, universal access to contraception makes having kids a decision. If families get to choose how many kids they want, birth projections fall by 30% to 2.8 billion people.
This isn't...
Again, they're just like, we're going to work down this bar because the bar cannot be that full. That would be bad. It's literally red when it's full and green when it's less full.
But their priorities are just like on their fucking head. It's like, yes, it's good. Yes, it's good for people to have agency and choices over their family life and whether, like, how many kids they have.
Yeah.
Yes, that's only good.
Yeah.
Why does it need to be a secondary priority to just having fewer people on
Someone
the planet?
in chat saying that the Castino spiel is good. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna do a little like unscripted video
really like
about
it,
UBI soon for my main channel, and it's kind of the intro bit that I got figured out.
I feel like it's just perfect analogy, really. Like,
yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say Young Black Economist. I really do mean it. Like, there's no real beef. Please do hang out.
You just
And
went off on the idea of economists.
Because I've been reading The Economist, and it is vile, hateful, reactionary, transphobic, often honestly just fascist fucking neoliberal propaganda, right? Lenin was right to say it's just a magazine that exists to defend billionaires. And he's said that fucking 100 years ago.
Who's the kind of like relatively based economist? Like Wolf, is it? Richard Wolf?
Richard Wolff's pretty based.
Yeah. He's got that voice that's very distinct.
And Unlearning Economics does actually say, for my complaint about the Twitter discourse of the week, Unlearning Economics is actually pretty based.
Yeah, it's just like, you gotta unlearn that.
Because they're unlearning economics,
Even
which is the
more.
opposite of the terrible thing, learning economics, which I wish I'd never done.
Not relying on like fictional, relational, fucking calculations of capital and are rather relying on from each according to their needs.
Yeah.
From each according to their ability to each according to their needs.
It's like that describes perfect economics. In one sentence, right? Okay, fine. Let's just watch the video. Fucking
just theory.
I have a pizza to order.
There are
Already examples that are reason for optimism. Ethiopia, the African country with the second biggest population, has made a lot of progress in a relatively short amount of time, improving health.
No. I did actually realize the thing I really wanted to say about this. It was the bar going down, right? Right? So, okay. Let's consider an apocalyptic vision, right? Something that would end the fucking world, right? And how will we solve it? Well, we're going to invent magic technology that makes it okay and it's fine. Don't worry, just vote for the people who will make it so the magic technology gets made.
That is the level of logic there. Magical thinking.
Hey, we understand each other very well.
Lying.
I'm trying to perform a conversation for a Twitch chat here.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're picking up exactly what I'm putting down, but I'm trying to say, right? They have these videos about fucking climate change, and they're like, and it's just left unsaid because we all understand how terrifying climate change is and what a world-ending catastrophe it is, right? So very much the same as here, they're leaving it unsaid how bad overpopulation would be, right? Because they're just assuming we all know it would be bad if there's overpopulation.
Yeah, they don't even need to. They don't even feel the need to explain why reducing population.
But if the basis of the issue was
good.
But if the basis of the issue was we wouldn't be able to feed people, so loads of people would be dying hungry.
Right.
Right? Why can the answer to climate change be we'll invent a solution by then, But the answer to overpopulation cannot be, we'll invent a solution by then.
Yeah, which is when people start getting accused of, entirely appropriately, being Malthusian, being incredibly invested in the poorest people in the world, the most exploited, some of the most exploited fucking regions in the world, being less of those. Having less of them.
Okay.
Malthus was literally like, working class people need to have less kids, consume less, and the wealthy need to have more kids and consume more, because they're doing the working class a favour by giving them jobs. And the more the wealthy consume and grow their families,
Malthus really was a sicko,
the more
huh?
work the working class will have. Absolutely a sicko. And it's gross and eugenics and fucked up.
Okay.
Health services led
To a drop in child mortality from 20% to 7% since 1990. And up to 30% of the annual budget was invested in education, and the number of schools increased 25-fold over 2 decades. So, summarizing, there are serious challenges ahead, but they are far from unsolvable. Sub-Saharan Africa does not need pity or gifts, but attention and fair investment. It's a region...
Doesn't need pity or gifts, but it's the most patronising shit I've ever fucking heard. This is so fucking patronising.
Yes, big time. It doesn't need pity or gifts, but it does need foreign aid. Whatever. They said
It
that...
needs its fucking debts cancelled.
They
It needs to stop being fucking plundered and exploited by the Imperial Corps.
They said they'd make a video about foreign aid later, so I guess we'll get to that when we get to that. And that's gonna have to be... I didn't think there would be a third Kurzgesagt stream, right? I did not think... But then, we were watching the fucking video about where they get their funding from, and they said... The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded all these videos. I'm like, oh fuck, we gotta watch all these fucking videos now.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation literally funded a Kurzgesagt video on overpopulation in Africa. That's plain evil. That is plain eugenics, no matter how much they wish-wash around it, imply nuance, or
They're like,
fucking...
They're like, we're working in Africa trying to help Africans. There's a serious problem here. I'm like, yeah, there are a bunch of serious problems in Africa. They're like, there are going to be too many Africans soon.
Their primary fucking
I'm like, I don't think
metric.
that's the main problem here, my guys.
And what's their justification for that metric being important? Make economy good.
Line go up.
Whose line?
Line gotta go up.
Fucking...
Line go up.
It's really evil.
You know, if all the mining...
I was hoping they'd be fucking rebuking and debunking fucking... I was literally hoping they'd...
Oh, my sweet summer child.
I thought there was a possibility.
You know, if all of the mining, as ecologically devastating as it is, right, were done by corporations managed by Africans, right?
Yeah, they would have
And
the
then
resources from...
And then they were selling the oil, coltan, etc., right, to the American companies, right?
They'd actually
That
at
on
least see
its
some of the
own,
benefit.
Like, I'm not advocating fucking trickle-down economics here, right? Don't take me for some Reaganite.
Here's one
right?
problem.
But genuinely, so much of the shit that they're describing and their development pathways and shit would naturally happen if people just literally, if Africans owned the businesses being done in... Young Black Economist is saying the exact same shit as me in chat. Yeah.
But...
it's chill, we're on the same page, really. I'm not going to forgive them for being an economist, but I
The issue with that idea is that when countries in the imperial periphery, countries that have been colonized previously, take sort of control and management...
You are kicking my fresh tattoo, please stop.
Ooh, sorry. Take control of their own natural resources like that. They tend to be invaded.
Oh, that's so weird.
They tend to be
No.
invaded
That's not
or
right.
economically sanctioned.
No, you're
They tend to be murdered, actually.
No,
when they do that.
No, they don't get invaded.
There are many such examples.
No. They don't get invaded. The problem is that the only people who ever try to nationalize the resources of a country for the people are terrifying authoritarian
Right.
dictators
Oh, I got
who are
confused.
then overthrown from within
Right.
by
freedom-loving,
freedom fighters. Right. See, the problem is a problem.
democratically elected military coups.
The problem is a problem of terrorists and freedom fighters, right? Terrorists, like, you know, Nelson Mandela,
Right.
try to go and nationalize the resources of the country so that people in the country can benefit from them.
Right.
And then freedom fighters, like the IMF, stop them from doing that.
Pour concrete in the elevators.
Pour concrete down the elevator
of
shafts of the government buildings.
that happened in South Africa. After...
No. It was a corollary Naomi Klein was discussing about a different country
Oh.
while explaining. No. She was saying that economically and politically they had done the equivalent of pouring concrete down the elevator shafts.
Right. Okay.
Right. Which was a real thing that happened, but somewhere else.
Right.
So the previous administration severed the South African government's connection to the Central Bank of South Africa. They couldn't even run their own bank. Like, deeply fucked. Unbelievably fucked. Fuck that, actually.
Yeah. And fuck this video, actually.
Fuck this video. I'll say that. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna say fuck this video.
I'm gonna say this video is even more insidious than the climate change video.
I'm ready
It's
to
fucking
rate.
horrible.
I'm ready to rate this video. That's my official ranking for this video. Kurzgesagt, fuck yourself.
I'm feeling deeply unsettled. Like, all their animations are so pleasant. You know, they're so, like, child-friendly.
Kurzgesagt narrative being like, Soylent
Pastel
Green is good
colours.
for you.
Yeah, it's like the voice is so like, oh, I'm just a smart guy. I'm just a thoughtful, smart guy.
I'll give one additional. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, we're nearly at the end of the video. So we're at the hopeful, nice, peachy wrap-up bit, which is their their best bit when they go. But hopefully, if we all put in a lot of hard work, everything will be okay. Which is the ending of basically every Kurzgesagt video.
Rich in resources, culture,
And potential. If things go right, we'll see a turnaround similar to the one we've seen across most of Asia in the last 30 years.
What did I just say? What did I exactly just say? Every Kurzgesagt video is like
The research is ours, though.
Every Kurzgesagt video is like 3 to 10 minutes of them just like jerking liberalism off, right? And then the last 30 seconds of it is them just going. That's the last 30 seconds of every fucking Kurzgesagt video. I swear to God. I swear to fucking God. Okay, we ended up watching too much Kurzgesagt, and now my belly is full of Kurzgesagt and empty of pizza.
My tummy hurts from watching that
I
video.
ate too much Kurzgesagt. That's Kurzgesagt all around my mouth.
I feel like I've been injured.
You feel like
good.
someone just like punched you in the guts.
Yeah,
Just like hammered your guts.
I'm really not okay. Not okay with these like
I feel the same way.
liberal, nice science guys.
No.
On YouTube.
It's actually
who
fucked
have
up.
This, who are trusted by masses of people who are like, oh, they're speaking to me. I fucking love science. Who have 20 million fucking subscribers on YouTube. Just doing a video like about overpopulation in Africa. Just being like, yeah, when there's too many Africans, that's bad. Don't ask us why.
Okay, I'm gonna have to make...
Bad economy.
Because there are so many Gates Foundation funded videos. By the way, no, oh shit, okay, I've actually realized something just now. Because usually was a word they used when they were talking about...
Usually and often.
Yes, usually and often. Hold on. it just hit me that usually is directly saying, usually says directly the majority of the time,
Yes.
whereas often does not say
Yes.
the majority of the time.
Yes.
If you say people usually
I
get welfare when they ask
would-
for it, right? But if you say people often get welfare,
Yeah.
right, it would be, it's
I
like
would
subtle
not
trickery,
at all
right?
be surprised if the only Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation videos that they published were requested subjects.
No,
Or
that's,
subjects that they...
I'm saying that usually implies that they, sorry, I'm scrolling through a timeline while I'm doing this, to be clear, but usually implies the majority of the time, whereas often implies
Like sometimes.
at least once it's not that,
Yes.
right? But it could range entirely from like,
Most of the time.
and when I
to
was
minority.
looking at it before, why are my subtitles so small? I can't deal with this right now. Okay. Let's just open it back up over here.
Short form science communication.
The final 2% came from other organizations like the Red Cross or the UN, for example. We choose institutions to fund videos that help us spread quality information about relevant topics. This is an easy yes for us, if we have the capacity for it under public scrutiny, and we've been criticized for even working with organizations funded by him. So let's look at this 10% in more detail. About
Bill Gates is friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
3% of our revenue over the last 8 years came from the Gates organizations for a wide variety of topics, often suggested by us. Came from the Gates organizations for a wide variety of topics.
Okay, cool. We've clarified it, right? They use the word often here. Now, I was looking across this page and I was like, microbiome, bacteriophage, horror parasites. Those ones will be ones they've suggested themselves. But there are 9 videos here, so it must be at least 5. Because I was assuming often. I don't know why. I just assumed often would mean the majority of the time.
Right,
But now
but it can mean
it's
the
just
minority.
hit me really hard that they could be talking about 3 videos being often and 6 videos, right? It could be. Now, it could also be that who's to
Could be the
blame,
majority.
egoistic altruism are also ones they suggested.
But the fact is that we
the-
don't know.
But no, I know in my soul, overpopulation in Africa,
Oh, yeah.
climate doom, and the other climate video are all ones that the Bill Gates told them to make.
Also, it's
For
like they do
fucking
their own
sure.
research, but like, you know, what are the chances they get like conveniently presented with a bunch of
Actually, no,
research?
I'm gonna backpedal this one. I'm actually just gonna back up a second. Overpopulation and vaccines, they definitely were asked to make those by the foundation. The climate ones, quite likely not, right? They actually just wanted to provide a take about climate change that was more positive. Only they're awful libs, right?
I'm sure they would have many subjects where they would simply both just be. It would be a toss-up whether one party would come
I
to the other. with the
cannot
idea or not.
imagine Kurzgesagt coming to them with overpopulation in Africa.
Yeah, no, I mean like climate and vaccines and stuff.
No, yeah, that's true. Next time, okay, chat, please come back next time for the next Liberal Slop stream. It should be the tail end of the week, right? Because next time, we will watch the egoistic altruism video.
I'm looking forward to that.
And we'll watch Who's to Blame. Yeah, now you're fucking excited. Okay, if you've been enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe, watch here, or donate directly using command tip. And my wife can stop touching the back, my fresh tattoo.
No,
Please,
no.
please.
Check.
You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. I'm about to raid into someone, so now is your last chance for now. And we'll see you later in the week for some more Kurzgesagt cringe.
Thank you
In the
for
meantime,
watching.
we're gonna raid into Kira. Let's go check out what Kira's up to. Kira.
Because I'm somehow being worse than the New Statesman.
Cool. Can I ask you how to get that Watchman thing in your videos? I don't know what you're talking about.
She painted it.
Oh, my wall?
She painted it on the wall. She's so talented.
I painted it myself. You can't get it. You simply can't have it.
You can paint it.
Unless you paint your own. Please don't paint your own. It's mine. Paint your own if you want.
Your own kind of thing.
Although that would still be quite... Okay, we're gonna raid now. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/SophieFromMars. I hope you all have a lovely time with Kira. Please be nice to her. She is my friend.